What's up, friends? Welcome. It's time to Elevate and Thrive. It's your host, Barry Napier, here with my co-host, Dr. Angela Yeagley.
What's up, people?
Welcome, everyone. Today we're talking about something that affects almost everyone, oftentimes without their knowledge. It's almost like a secret health issue that's sabotaging.
Yes, I know. And that is,
It's metal toxicity. There's many secret. We like to expose these secret health saboteurs. We've talked about mold in the past and done some stuff on mold. That's one that's very common. This is another one that people oftentimes don't think of, and that is heavy metal toxicity.
That's right. Yeah, and most people, I've had people actually ask me what are heavy metals. So we're like toxic metals. So we're thinking of lead, mercury, arsenic, are probably the most common that people think of in our environment. But then there's cadmium. There's actually the tests that we do, test for uranium, and a whole bunch of other things. Aluminum, people have concern about because of Alzheimer's. And
did we mention mercury?
Loss. I did mention mercury.
Okay,
I
thought you did. Yeah, because that's a common one.
That's a really common one.
All the metals are coming at me. I missed that one.
So, so most people, I would say, to me, a lot of times I end up testing this because someone has an issue, like there's autoimmunity or they're dealing with some serious chronic illness, some Parkinson's, some nervous system issue, or extreme fatigue, or, the one person that just says, I feel great and I want to get this tested. Usually that's not likely, but I do think, I'm going to put it out there, I think everybody should do it because we all have exposure to this. It's literally everywhere.
And I think that one of the common maybe objections that people have is like, well, I didn't grow up next to a uranium factory. Like I didn't live next door to the nuclear power plant, or like, I didn't mine. I wasn't like mining for lead or whatever, but so people, you don't think, okay, I'm not in a place where I had direct exposure.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is we live in an industrialized society.
Everybody has exposure.
And the exposure is literally, it is everywhere. It's in the groundwater, it's in the soil, it's in the air we breathe. Yeah, it's in the food we, it's in the dust, it's in the food we eat. You can't escape the metal, the trace amounts of metal that get into our environment.
That's right. Yeah. And what's interesting is that this area, because of the copper smelters in the area, the old ones have the highest, and actually Boeing is a contributor. Oops, can I say that?
Sure.
It's just manufacturing, right?
Yeah.
And so
place that manufactures planes in Seattle.
Yeah.
Starts
lead
with
and cadmium.
Right. With a G.
Yeah. Exactly.
I don't know if it's Boeing or not. There could be other ones.
So we have a very high exposure rate actually here in the Northwest, and studies have shown more than the tri-state area in this area. So if you live here in the Seattle area, like you're going to have more exposure, right? And so for your current health, your long-term health, or again, if you're dealing with some, anything related to your own health, autoimmunity or something you're working on, you've got to do it.
Yeah, and this is one that it's so interesting. I remember like actually playing with mercury when I was a kid.
The ball is so fun.
We had like a jar of it at my grandma's house.
Son, just go out there and play.
I
with
probably
some mercury.
poured put it in a bathtub full of mercury and just like laid on it. Have you ever seen those old videos of people just like floating on the mercury
totally.
pools? Yeah.
Oh yes.
But then also like lead and stuff, very common, right? Mercury
people
and
played
lead.
with that too.
Yeah, that's another one, right? It was in the paint. It was in the thing. We had lead pencils. You chew on your pencils as a kid. Yeah, lead gas, right?
So, yes, exactly.
Lead in the pipes.
Lead in the pipes.
So this is one, that's absolutely. That's so common. It's so common.
Yeah.
And even interesting. Doesn't Mark Hyman have like a great? Didn't he have a story?
He has
about
a great.
This?
Yeah. So if you don't know Mark Hyman, he is a very, very well-known functional medicine MD. Amazing to me. He's very inspiring, and with all of his knowledge, for some reason, this man started eating tuna every day, which is extremely high in mercury and other metals.
And wasn't he? He was eating like mercury-free tuna, I think.
Yeah,
is what it was like an ultra-clean tuna.
Well, there isn't any mercury-free tuna, but it's like safe caught,
right?
Like didn't harm dolphins, kind of thing.
Okay.
So he's like the high end in the can mercury.
He was eating the nice tuna.
The nice tuna, yeah. So he said he was doing that for months. And again, a man with a lot of knowledge who knows better, and he started getting significant, like severe brain fog and memory loss, like to the point where he was forgetting things like during his day as a physician, and he's like, something's really, really wrong. And so he went through, he had brain scans, everything's fine. And I think this is where people get frustrated if they start having cognitive issues, is that, if they go through the traditional system and they're like, well, your brain looks good, and I don't know, your thyroid is fine, and of course, other doctors speak like that.
That's a good doctor.
Yeah.
Yes, I was appreciating that.
Like
doctor
you're good. Go home and take a nap. So really, so what he found, his mercury levels were off the charts, like unbelievable, like extremely high. And then he was like, oh, okay, I know what I'm doing. I need to stop it. And then he had to go through a process of what's called chelation.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit let's talk about first, well, how do we identify then? So it's testing, some kind of a test that we do.
Yeah, so there are two different kinds. So, well, probably more than that, but there's the acute. So like, say if your kid, and actually I want to mention something about kids that's pretty fascinating and scary. If you watch your daughter eat lead paint or something, right, and you're like, okay, I just saw that exposure, it's an acute exposure, you can go to the lab and take blood or do urine, and that will pick up what you've just been exposed to, and then you can identify it, treat it. If you have a chronic exposure, which is those little micro amounts just over your lifetime, right, or you have mercury fillings, or again, you played with lead or mercury as a kid, then we want the test that tests for chronic exposure. And so that's going to be a long urine test, an 8 to 24-hour test. And this is my opinion, but I've done a lot of training around this, that you really need it to be a chelated test, which means that you have to take a binder of metals, which are called chelators, and then before you do your test, and then you need to collect your urine, because it's going to go into your stores of your body. It's going to go everywhere in your brain, your tissues, your organs, bind to that. You then are going to pee it out, and then you're going to see what's sitting in the kind of the depth of your tissues, as opposed to you go to your regular Quest or LabCorp and you just do a simple blood draw. It's not going to pick up the chronic stuff. And I really want to be clear about that, because I had a lot of people bring me those tests that say,
look, I'm clean. I'm good.
I'm clean. Well,
clear.
Yeah, their doctor ordered it because they said, hey, I heard
good.
about heavy metals. Go to their primary care. Doc, I need this done. So they're sure, no problem. Order the regular one and go, look, you're fine. Everything's fine. And that's generally not most people, it's not true,
So you have to get the right test.
The right test, yeah.
Yeah, the right test to really get that deep kind of, it's in the cellular vault, pull
like
it out.
That. Yes.
It's trapped in the cellular vault.
It's trapped in your cellular vault. This is good. Yes.
So that's our trademarked term right now, cellular vault. So we do this test, two-step.
Yeah.
So you take a chelator, you take a bunch of urine samples over 24 hours, you bring it in, we send it in, it brings us back and says, look, here's your metal exposures.
Yeah.
Boom, boom, boom.
So we start with that. So that's what I call your baseline, right? And what's pretty fascinating is, so we started treatment then, and I'll talk about treatment, but I just want to make this clear too, that many times we treat, and then within 3 to 6 months we repeat it. Most times that second test is higher. And the reason why, maybe you had some acute exposure. Most likely your body and your liver and your lymph system has all improved at detoxing and letting go of these things that are in your cells. And so I almost tell people to expect it. Your second one, it's going to look like you've been doing, eating lead and mercury all day long.
It's starting to come out more.
It's starting to come out more, yeah. And then by the third, if we're graphing it, right, the second one's higher. If we're plotting, the third one usually is lower than the first. And then we start seeing that trend as we go on.
Yeah, so so you're kind of alluding to, it's a process to get these metals extracted from the body.
Yeah, it is. And before I forget, I just want to say about kids, looking at some recent research, children, and this was actually done through a gastrointestinal group, have a much higher absorption rate of heavy metals than we do, and significantly. So, say the thing that happened in Michigan with all of the lead in the water, right, and all those kids were affected, right, much more than the adults were. So I think we kind of forget about our kids a little bit.
Their body mass is smaller too, right?
Smaller.
So like a a concentration where it's going to have more of an immediate impact, right? Because of the ratio.
Exactly. And most times it's the same thing with kids. We don't really think about testing them or doing anything until maybe there's a significant problem. And so something I'll say here that I've been meaning to do, my daughter is 9, and I'm going to test her and have her do the chelators and see what's hanging out in there, right? And then start with children, you can do things that are natural, like just do the organic chlorella as a treatment.
Right. You can start on some of these alternative treatment plans that we have that we do in addition to our primary treatment plan, which would be, you could even get them in a sauna.
Yes.
You can really look at diet as a way to...
diet, and then do maybe some very gentle supplements with them. Like
some very gentle, well-tolerated things that can help kind of their liver process and their body, right? Because if the sooner you catch it and are aware, right, the less volume there is and the easier it is to get it out. So if we're thinking here as adults, it's been a chronic buildup for a long time. It's to manifest as symptoms, then oftentimes now it's going to be a process to get that out. So our primary treatment form is...
So we have 2 different ways we can approach this. And sometimes we combine them. So probably the higher form intervention would be IV chelation. So it's a combination of something called EDTA, which is the primary binder for lead, but it also has an affinity for a bunch of others. And then that's paired with something called DMPS, which is primary for mercury, but also binds to a bunch of others. So like that combination is just incredible for like also the cadmium and uranium that people tend to have in their system too, and aluminum and all of that. So that combo is great. And then we always like add on glutathione, which, we are a huge fan of. It's so amazing.
Yeah, like powerhouse.
Yeah. To help actually glutathione is a very gentle binder to metals, and also will protect your brain and your liver through this process. So that's number 1. Of course, you have to come in to have that done. That's usually what I recommend when people are having a lot of symptoms, or their levels are really high, or they have autoimmunity.
Yeah, it's like we need to treat this.
Yeah, it's going to be the fastest way to get it out, right? And so then the other form, or the other way we approach it is one through a prescription chelator, and it's oral. So kids can do this one actually, but you can do the adult version of it, and called DMSA, and that's your mercury binder, and then you pair it with like an oral or a rectal EDTA. So if you're not doing the IV route, and then we put you on like we're on a treatment basis, like, okay, you do this for 3 days, and then you take a break for a little while, and then you repeat it, and for 3 days. You cycle it. Thank you. Yeah. So, and then same thing with glutathione. Then we also add in, you have to replace minerals, because chelators will bind to minerals. So
they'll take all the stuff.
You have to take all the stuff. Yeah. I mean, even if you're getting IV, you're going to get extra minerals. You're going to get also then, I really like adding chlorella, like the organic chlorella. It has to be organic because it will pick up metals in the water if it's not grown in organic like situations. So organic chlorella every day, really, if you're dealing with it. I mean, just add it as part of your supplement regimen, and then your glutathione every day would be nice, right? Mm-hmm. And then there are some other things. Sometimes we'll also use some other like activated charcoal and clays to kind of, when you're doing chelation, to help to bind up what's getting put in the gut and help you excrete it. So it's a combination of things, and we have to watch this, and we have to retest you. But highly,
it
the
works,
research,
though, right? If it's effective.
Well, let me tell you one of the biggest studies, and I know we're kind of getting close to our time, or I think we're getting close to our time. But so there's a huge trial done by the National Institute of Health, which is our government, right? And it's called the TACT Trial, TACT, if you want to look it up. And so because so many small-scale studies done on IV EDTA were so successful, and they were successful in a way you might not think. So they actually changed the cardiovascular system in a very positive way. So, for instance, they did a small study of like 40 people where they did IV EDTA over 40 treatments in a short period of time, like 3 months. And there were 2 groups. One was scheduled for diabetic amputation from decreased circulation in their limb. And then the other one was scheduled for triple bypass heart surgery. And almost 90% of those people were able to cancel their surgeries because there was so much movement. It's basically EDTA went into the lining and bound up, because metals are inflammatory. They go into the lining of the arteries, right? took it out and basically relaxed the vessels, opened up the vessels, and also worked, binds calcium, decreased plaque. It was like an incredible study. So there were multiple small scale studies like that. So the government did a 12-year study like that just for cardiovascular purposes. Like, is this something that we could use just for that reason, not for any other to get necessarily metals out, but that was the purpose, right? And the end result was like, ranged in people like a 20 to almost like 48% drop in all-cause mortality, meaning like dying for any reason. So risk of cancer significantly dropped. They saw that cardiovascular benefit. They saw risk of autoimmunity drop significantly. They saw like just overall this just general longevity like increased in the people who were getting the IV chelation. But what was the coolest is this is how we do ours. The ones that did the best were the people who did the chelation in an IV vitamin bag. And that's exactly how we do it. Yeah, it was there's synergy there. They did better than the individual parts.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
So even without like just knowing the benefits of taking those metals out, there was all this incredible spillover.
It was right. So the purpose again, their purpose was just to see the cardiovascular.
They were just purely going after the cardiovascular, but then they saw like, wow, look at all of these other benefits.
Yeah, absolutely. And most people, when we think about our long-term health, we think like nobody wants to get cancer. Nobody wants to have an autoimmune disease. Nobody
wants a limb amputated.
Nobody wants nobody wants to have triple bypass surgery.
They don't want it.
And I'm not saying that this is like the only thing you have to do in your whole life, but
no, but you're saying this is a powerful treatment therapy, right?
Powerful,
there's a benefit to it. So like anything, it starts with coming in or seeing a practitioner who understands this and is versed in this, and beginning the process of starting to get some of that chronic testing done, right? So you want to make sure you get the right testing done, right? And that's with the chelators and with the long urine sample.
Yeah.
So it's the right test, and then you can take a look and see, okay, what do you have? And from that, then it can move forward with the treatment plan, whether it's in a more intentional, aggressive, or highest level treatment, which would be the IV bag.
Yeah.
With the combo of other supplements and other food, lifestyle.
Right.
Like things like infrared sauna too can be really helpful.
Thank you. Yes, forgot about that.
Yep. So that we love infrared sauna. That's another great one. So there's a whole then treatment process that we can kind of, depending on that severity of the testing, put you on. And it's a process, right? I mean, you're kind of anticipating like over, as you mentioned, kind of a 6-month, 9-month kind of
year sometimes
type
2 years. And it depends. Like I had an elderly gentleman who really wanted to see changes in his,
depends how aggressive,
system.
I guess you can go, right?
Yeah. And so he was coming in 2 to 3 times a week, and we saw just really incredible changes in him fast, like really fast,
Yeah, because most people are
going to do that.
Every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks or something, right?
That's really common. Every 4 weeks is a really common like schedule.
Yep. To come in, you get hooked up to the bag, your IV, you hang out.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And most people, I'll just didn't think about, sometimes people detox after, sometimes they don't. So meaning like sometimes you can have chelation and you feel again like the detox feeling of like, you get a little headache, a little achy. I've had people have like temporary skin stuff that, goes away within a couple of days. But it's great. Some people don't notice anything at all, which is awesome. And then other people, they're tired for a couple of days and they have to kind of prepare for it. So one thing I found for people who do get tired is that if I put them on the beamer, because there's so much movement in the liver and the lymph system, that they stop detoxing after the chelation, which is pretty incredible. So I definitely recommend that if you're a heavy detoxer and have issues.
Right. And that's again, the benefit is, we want to be a guide. We're here for you. We can help through this process and understand, all these different tools that we can use and resources to help support you and help really transform your health. So if this is something that's interesting or exciting, by all means, come in and see us or find a local practitioner if you're listening to this somewhere outside of the Edmonton, Seattle area to get this done, because it's phenomenal, it's empowering, and it can be absolutely transformational.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
And we will see you on the next show.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.